Hey everybody, welcome into episode 29 of my YouTube journey. I'm so glad you're joining me today. Tonight, I'm going to go over something that's really near and dear to my heart, and that is signed vintage baseball cards. That's right, signed ones. I've become obsessed. I love baseball cards. I'm really into vintage, obviously, but man, you put a player's signature on that piece of cardboard, and it's just I'm over the moon for it. You can't beat me off with a stick. So tonight I'm going to show you some of those. We're going to kind of talk about the different reasons and different categories of signed vintage cards that I like and why I like them. And we're going to look at a bunch of them. So just stay tuned for that. Got a lot of great feedback from you guys over my She Was Joe Jackson interview. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me when I know that people watch my stuff and get, some knowledge or just get entertained from it. So I appreciate the good feedback. You don't know what that means to people who put a camera in front of them and talk. So I appreciate that. Tonight, when we're done with this video, I want you to leave me some comments. Tell me what your feelings are about vintage cards. Tell me some cards maybe you have or stuff you're chasing. Also, I hope you enjoyed the new intro song that appeared on this video for the first time. My best friend growing up, one of my best buddies, grew up with him at church. My mom and his mom are good friends growing up. I've known him. I don't remember not knowing him. His name's David Woodard, and he did that video. He wrote a song. He performed all the instruments. Everything about that he put together just because he enjoys watching my stuff and he's my buddy. So who could ever not want to have a buddy like David? He's awesome. So thank you, David. I appreciate everything you did for me there. But tonight, talking about vintage baseball cards that are signed. When I first got back in the hobby, I was after the 50s and the 60s, and I did my Hank Aaron run was the first thing I did. Then I jumped into a Mickey Mantle run, and so I love doing player runs. And as I was doing those, I'd always had some signed cards. So I still had those from my childhood. Some had gone to a mall to get. Others I'd gotten at an actual baseball game by sticking them over the fence for a guy to sign or whatever. But they were always special to me. So I started seeing those, and obviously for a signed card it costs more than for a raw card. And then there's the question about, is the signature real? Well, when I got back in the hobby, because of the grading and they're slabbed, you got a little bit of confidence, I guess you could say, that the card is actually signed by the person it's supposed to be. I know some slip through the cracks, but before grading, back when I was collecting before grading was about, because remember I had a big void there. I didn't even know graded cards existed until I got back in the hobby about 3 years ago. Before then, I had the opinion if you didn't get it in person, you really didn't want to buy it from somebody because it could be fake, you'd never know it, and all that kind of stuff. Well, unbeknownst to me, there were other people that felt that way too, and they started a whole industry around authentication of autographs. PSA has them, JSA, and other companies, and some are reputable, some maybe not so reputable. But anyways, so me and Mike Petty have had this conversation. Mike is a little more leery about autographs because he's collected way back, and he remembers different scandals and scams. SGC used to grade autographs. Apparently, this was before I got back in, and they used JSA to do that. And there was a big scandal about a bunch of fake ones getting through, and so they're still probably slabbed. And so, that's tainted his view on signed cards. Not that he would like them anyways, but he has a certain kind of skepticism about that, and it's warranted. Me personally, I don't have that because I don't know about all those unless you tell me. So I'm trusting the system. So what I've said, like on our last Odd Couple episode, I said, either you're going to trust the system to a point, or you are going to not collect autographs. I've bought in, I trust the system. Now, I'm going to phrase it with this. I also look at the autograph and I try to look and make sure it doesn't look funky or something. But a lot of times you couldn't tell me if it did. But there are occasions, like I'm not going to name the player because I don't want to shame somebody that spent a lot of money on an autograph card. But there was an autograph card this weekend by a player that looked like it had a modern Sharpie autograph on it. That player died before modern Sharpies were a thing. I saw that. A couple of other collector buddies of mine pointed that out, that they noticed it too. That was a little bit iffy to me. I wouldn't have bought that one. So I do have a discerning eye in that way. But for the most part, if you're going to collect slab graded autograph cards, you either trust the system or you don't. And if you don't, that's cool too. If you're only going to collect ones that you saw somebody sign in person, that's cool. But, if you're doing autographs by the mail, you don't know that that guy signed that card. You didn't actually see him do it. So it could be fake for all you know. So, it kind of takes some of the fun out of it. You just kind of got to trust the system a little bit, I guess. So, my autograph cards come into different categories. First category is the ones that I got in person. And those mean a lot because I have the memory associated with actually standing in front of the person and handing them the card and having an interaction. I've had some great interactions. Brooks Robinson, man, he sat there and did the autograph. It was at a show behind a table. And I said, Mr. Robinson, I said, that's an awesome ring you have. And he had on his World Series ring. And before I could get that out of my mouth, he already had slid his ring off his finger and said, here, wear it. And had put it on my finger. And I'm standing there in shock, like Brooks Robinson's World Series ring is on my finger. He said, just stand over here beside the table and look at it as long as you want. You take as long as you want. I was like, thank you, Mr. Robinson. And everybody in line behind me is like, they're like, that is the coolest thing. I stood there what seemed like an eternity looking at that ring, and then finally walked over and handed it back to him and told him thank you. And then he thanked me for wanting to look at it. So, bless him. He was a good man. Everybody you've ever heard talk about Brooks Robinson has stories like that. But then there's other guys that maybe I've got a Willie Mays autograph. Maybe he had a stomach ache that day. Maybe he wasn't feeling well. I don't know. Maybe somebody made him mad in traffic on the way. I don't know. But he was grumpy and he wasn't nice. So guess what? I don't collect a lot of Willie Mays stuff. I don't begrudge you if you do. But that left a mark on me. And so if you ever notice, I don't have Willie Mays cards. I don't show them a whole lot. They just don't appeal to me because I saw him in person that day and he just wasn't a real nice guy. So let's just leave it at that. So like I said, I'm sure he was a good dude, but he wasn't that day. So people have different occasions to have, brushes with fame, I guess you could say. So, and then there's the ones where I saw the guy play. I didn't get the autograph in person, but he's during the era that I grew up. So watching him takes me back to my youth. Having that card, having that signature. I remember watching him on Game of the Week games or on All-Star games and things like that, or on World Series when I was a kid. So that card means something to me, adds a little extra to have that autograph on it. And then there's the player runs. I love doing player runs. I'm really big on character and things like that, and guys that have a good story and great players and things. But Larry Dobby and Monty Irvin are two. Larry Dobby, I've got a ton of his signed cards. I'm starting on Monty Irvin's. I'll show you some of those in a minute. But I love their story about coming from the Negro Leagues, finally getting their shot, and being able to stand up against hatred and racism and perform well on the field. And I just find them worthy. And to hold that card in my hand, knowing that those great men, those brave, heroic kind of dudes, held that card and signed it at one time, that just turns me on. I like it. So, and then the other ones are just all-time great Hall of Famers. So, if you can get a rookie card signed or something like that, it's pretty awesome. But, like a Ted Williams or a Jackie Robinson, I'll show you one of those in a minute. And again, he kind of falls into that Monty Irvin and Larry Dobie category. But what comes along with that, like a Mickey Mantle, is, and I'll talk about this in a minute, is the pop count. Those things are scarce when you consider what percentage a signed card is based off of all the slabbed cards, all the graded cards, and then you take the percentage of those cards that are signed. It's usually 1%, around 1%, sometimes less, sometimes a little more. So when you really consider the scarcity of those, that's amazing to me. And sure, they cost a little more, but when you consider that a PSA 9 or a 10 is a certain percentage of the population, and that drives the cost up because that's a scarcity. And then you got a pop count lower than those in a signed card at any grade. And those are more scarce, but they don't cost what a 9 or a 10 costs in most cases. So anyways, I think the scarcity is something that's really cool too. So the biggest thing is knowing they held that card in their hand, knowing they signed it. I'm not into sticker autographs. It's actually got to be an on-card autograph for me, and it needs to be a playing days autograph too. But there's some modern stuff that is amazing. A guy that I've gotten to know a little bit on Instagram, Luke Bleecker Street Cards, today posted a modern card that was a remake of the 1953 Topps Willie Mays, and he had signed it in red ink and numbered it, hand numbered it. It was really cool. So that's cool too. It's kind of the same thing. So, but we're going to get to looking at those cards here in just a second. I appreciate you hanging in there with me, and I'm so thankful for everybody that watches my channel. All right, welcome back. Here I am with my first category, and this is in-person autographs. So this is Hall of Famer Phil Niekro, and as you can see, the signature is faded a little bit. This is 1969 Topps. He came to a mall with a bunch of Braves players, including Dale Murphy, Jerry Royster, Bob Horner, a bunch of guys from, I believe it was 1980. On the Braves caravan to Nashville, Tennessee. And I got his autograph. I used to have this in like a old school 80s penny sleeve, and I had it sitting up beside my bed on like a shelf. And so it got a lot of sun and light. It kind of faded a little bit. But, you know, this card means a lot to me because I stood in front of him, and he was a nice man. He had that bowl haircut. Still remember that. This one I got in person when I was a teenager. Gaylord Perry came to a local show and was signing. I got him on a ball and also on this 1980s baseball card. And so anyways, always kept it all these years. I remember meeting him. This one is the Darryl Strawberry I got at Wrigley Field. If you haven't watched my greatest baseball trip ever video, this is the card Darryl signed for me right outside the left field fence there that day. He put this card, had me turn around, he put it between my shoulder blades and used that as a table, and he put his signature on it. So that story and that memory is priceless. This one, this was my guy growing up. When I played ball in college, I tried to copy his stance, even though I was right-handed and couldn't do it. I was never going to be as smooth as Donnie Baseball, but he was at a Nashville Old Timers baseball banquet a couple months ago, and got to meet him, and he put his signature on my childhood rookie card. So this one isn't slabbed. This was from my actual collection as a kid, and I'm so happy to have his autograph on it. And he was such a nice man too. He really connected with me in that little split couple of minutes, 5 minutes maybe. And then this one, if you've seen my Mickey Mantle video, you know the story behind this one. I got it when I was 12, the card from my Little League coach. And 2 years later, when I was 14, he came to a grand opening of a store 10, 15 minutes from our house, and went there and got him to sign this in a baseball. So, and you know, a lot of people talk about that they grew up in a time, and I was in that same time, and it was taboo to get cards signed. I was never told that, and a lot of people I hear say that, like my buddy Tim Kaler, the one that I went to the Wrigley Field trip with. His dad and himself, they collected together, and they would get all these 8x10s signed, and baseballs and bats, and they got a few cards, but not their good ones. And that was why it was taboo. You thought you were ruining the card. I never knew that. So I thought, I love baseball cards. When I was 10 and I wanted to get an autograph, I got Phil Necro to sign that 69 Topps. So I thought, I love baseball cards. I love autographs. I'm going to let them sign my card. I mean, it just made all the sense in the world to me. So maybe I was a little ahead of my time. I don't know. So the next one is, these are guys that I actually saw play. And so it means something to me to have their autograph. Got this Chipper Jones autograph on this nice Stadium Club card. I believe this is a rookie card. But anyways, my son played in a tournament in Atlanta, and they gave these out to some of the players. And it was the Leo Mazzoni Classic in Atlanta. This is one of the best hitters of my generation, Tony Gwynn. And somebody pointed out to me on Instagram, or maybe I posted this on a video, that he changed his G later in his career. This is his early G, which was cursive. He changed it to more of just an uppercase, non-cursive G. But I'm glad to have this. I remember watching him play all the time. Great hitter. Next one is the Dave Parker rookie card. Just got into Hall of Fame. But if you're my age, you remember watching that All-Star game, and I think it was like the 1980 All-Star game, maybe 81, 82, I don't know. But, you know, his nickname was the Cobra, and he threw a rocket in from right field in that All-Star game to nail somebody at home plate. I don't remember who. I should have looked it up. But, you know, it takes me back to those days of watching the Pirates and the We Are Family guys in the 79, 80. Then you got Randy Johnson. He's got a crazy signature, but it's pretty much the same every time you see it. I loved getting this card a couple of years ago. Really like having it. I remember watching him play and pitch a lot, and he was kind of a big, tall character in the beginning. Didn't know if he was going to drill somebody. Just asked John Crook. But, you know, I remember watching him. It's cool to have his card. This guy right here is my all-time favorite guy in my generation that played. He is my age. He's 55. He graduated high school the same year I did. So he hit the major leagues. It was pretty cool seeing somebody my age playing the major leagues and dominate. And so that's what Griffey means to me, and it's cool. You know, this Upper Deck card, there's a lot of them out there. But, you know, just to add a signature to it, just gives it that extra dimension. So, and they're plentiful. They're actually not terribly out of shape price-wise. Pete Rose, I remember watching him break that all-time hit record. And so, yeah, you know, I got this one back. I didn't get it in person, obviously, or I would have shared it that way. But bought it already slabbed. And, you know, I remember watching him break that record. I still have the USA Today from the next day after he broke the hits record. It was a big deal. I remember even having a little tear in my eye. I used to get emotional over stuff like that. So I wanted his card with an autograph on it. This is a really awesome set from my childhood, from when I was a teenager, and I wanted to get this card. And then this guy, Nolan Ryan, I got this one recently. It's a great autograph. It's maybe a Playing Days, who knows, but it's the ballpoint pen autograph so many people are attracted to. And his second-year card. But, you know, I think I've told you this before, but my son is named Nolan after Nolan Ryan. I wanted him to have a baseball name, and Nolan's such a strong man of character. It was a good guy to name your son after, especially being a Southern guy. So, you know, Nolan means a lot to me, and I've never met him in person. I need to do that, but I bought this one already slabbed. The next category is going to be player runs. So I've started my Monty Irvin player run, and here we got a 51 Bowman, and got the ink pen autograph, got a little tape on it. Somebody thought enough about it to put it in a scrapbook after they got it autographed, and so I've considered that a Playing Days auto. Again, I have love Monty Irvin's story, so that's one that I'm happy to have to start on that Monty Irvin run. I also grabbed this one recently. It's a 52 Topps. Got a great bold signature of Monty. He is so photogenic in his cards. Some guys just ain't, But Monty Irvin is one of those guys that definitely has that gene. Then we got the 1955 Topps Monty Irvin. He signed it in red ink. You can see the indentation when you get the light just right on it. But yeah, just another great card. And again, I don't pay attention to centering and corners on these autograph cards. That's not important to me. The important thing is they held the card in their hand. And I'm about to get into pop counts too. And so it just adds another layer of challenge. Check how beautiful this card is. I mean, if you don't see the beauty in that, and he signed it in a great spot in a nice blue ink that kind of goes with his hat. I mean, absolutely gorgeous card. This one's cool too. The 54 Topps. Again, he has some great cards. He's got a little smushed hat right there. He must have had it in his back pocket. But he just looks so happy in that picture there. Love having the signature. And then we get into Larry Dobby. I've made that run of his. I shared it in my Larry Dobby episode. And he didn't sign a lot. So his pop counts are kind of low. And I'll start sharing those here in just a second. This one's one I picked up recently. I'm so happy to have this. To have all three of their signatures with Minoso. And then having Dobby on here. And Rocky's name right there in the middle. It's pretty awesome. And somebody had to work to get this one. So this is one of the first ones I want to talk about pop count. The pop count on this card right here is 1,131 of these have been graded, and only 12 have been signed. Now, when I talk about these pop counts, I'm talking about SGC and PSA pop counts combined in just the card grade. There may be some SGCs that have been, that are autographed, that have been slabbed. I don't have those numbers, though, because SGC on their website does a terrible job. They don't even show signed card pop counts, but PSA does. So I'm going to use that as my go-to for the actual pop count on the signed card side. So 12 of these have been signed, but PSA doesn't tell you how many have all three signatures. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 8. I don't know. I can't imagine it's that many. But let's just consider all 12 had this. That's 1% of all the cards that have been graded are autographed by at least one person. 1%. I would have to believe all three of them are probably less than half a percent. So pretty cool to own it. You know, it wasn't a cheap card, but it wasn't crazy either. Then we got this Monty Irvin, 1952 Red Man with the tab. The autograph's a little bit faded, but it's that ink pen that most people like. This pop count on this one right here in the graded is 158 between SGC and PSA. There's only one PSA, and I don't have a count, so let's just say there's one SGC. That makes it 2. 1.3% of these have an autograph on them. Now, there may be some in the wild. We'll talk about that in a minute that haven't been graded. That's always possible. So, anyways, love having that card. And then here's one right here that I'm lucky to own. 1955 Red Man with the tab, and it's got the ink pen autograph on it as well. There's been 166 of these graded, and there's no PSAs that have an autograph. I don't know, maybe this is the only SGC because I don't have their pop count, but it's obviously an SGC graded card. But let's just say it's pop 1. This is a true 1 of 1. And that makes it 0.6% of all graded cards have an autograph on it. So again, really minuscule amount. And then the next one I just recently picked up. This is a signed 52 Berk Ross Larry Dobby. I got it recently from REA, and obviously it hasn't been graded, but it's a great card. Has a little bit of a crease, but again, when I start doing these player runs, this is a screenshot from my phone. I video with my phone, so I can't actually show you my phone. I'll go through and find all the different cards of that player. So this is the Larry Dobby run. And then out here in bold, I put the pop count of his signed cards so that I know how rare they are. And down here, when I printed it, it kind of squeezed these in. I've got a Perez still. There's 21. And when I put a check mark, it means I have it. There's 12 of that Destruction Crew. There's 1 of the Red Men. There's 3 of the exhibits that I have. There's 11 of the 59 tops. So you get the picture. When I saw that the Berk Ross was only 2, I thought there's no way I'm ever going to grab that. I found a guy that had one, and he wanted too much money for it, so I passed. And then, lo and behold, this one, along with a group of 15 other signed Berk Ross cards, between the 15 of those cards, I think the pop count total was like 12 or something. Over half of the cards that are signed in that Berk Ross lot that I just picked up raw had a pop count of 0. There were 4 Hall of Famers, and I'll show those to you here in a minute. And the pop count on 2 of them was 2. This was one of them, and on the other 2 was 1. So I put a big dent in their pop count, but this one will make 3. And so after this one is graded, it'll be 1.8% of all graded Berk Ross Dobbies will have an autograph on it. So pretty cool when you start looking at those numbers. And we'll get into those more here in just a second. All right, next we're going to get into epic players. And here's the first one I'm going to show you. It's 51 Bowman. This card is absolutely one of the prettiest cards. It's Yogi Berra, one of his prettiest for sure. But there's certain cards in the hobby that are beautiful, but man, you add his signature on it and it just goes to a next level. So love having this card. I did the pop count, but I didn't write it down. But it's not very high. Just trust me on that. But again, I like having it just because it's Yogi. Then we got the Warren Spahn rookie card, 48 Bowman. Got the big fat Sharpie. I wish it was a little thinner, but it's okay. He still held this in his hand. He put his signature on it. Shows a really young Warren Spahn, fresh out of the Army, where he fought over in Europe. And I'm just glad to have this, glad to have his signature on it. And then you get into pop counts where, you know, just the card alone, this is 1915 Smokey Joe Wood card. I love this card. I mean, out of all the cards in my collection, having this card right here means so much to me because I love the Cracker Jacks. And then the fact that it's autographed by this guy, the guy that I heard talk on the audio version of Glory of Their Times, held this card and signed it. It's insane. There, in the 1915 Cracker Jack set, there are only 4 autographed cards in the entire set that we know about. Now, we could get one come out like that Larry Dobby and that did raw, but as of right now, there's only 4. 2 of them are Joe Wood. So, you know, there's not a lot of those cards. There's only 147 of these cards graded, period. And then you add in his 2 signed cards, and it's 1.4% of all the graded cards are signed. And that's a low number, but it's not as low as some of the ones I'm about to show you. So I love having this card. It's scarce as it is with only 147, but then you add autograph, and it goes to another level. I shared this one in a card pickup video. I bought this card. It was actually still attached to the scrapbook page, but it's in an old felt pen. And Ted Williams, for those of y'all are familiar with his autograph, he changed his autograph over the years. This is an early Ted Williams autograph, and this one is on the 1940 play ball. There are 1,116 of these cards graded. Of course, this isn't, and that's between, again, SGC and PSA. This is a Pop 12, including this card. So, including this card, Pop 12 would put it at 1% of all the graded cards have his signature on it. Now, this one, the back is jacked up. It still has the paper from the scrapbook glued to it. It was a thick rubber cement type glue. So I just cut it tight to the cardstock, and I'm going to get it graded. I know it'll get an authentic grade on the card. I don't care. I really love having this card. Again, grades really don't matter to me on my signed stuff. And then you get into cards that there's a ton of, and that's this 69 Mantle. You think, well, the pop count on his signed cards can't be that low because he signed so much. You'd be surprised. This one is graded. There is 17,392 of these graded. Over 17,000. There's 124 of these graded signed, and that puts the pop count at 0.7%, not even 1%. 0.7% of his cards are signed. And then the next one is the 58 mantle. This one, not as many graded because it's older. 12,341 of these graded. Pop count on it signed is 67. That puts it at 0.5%, not 5%, 0.5% of these have a signature. Again, so that kind of, the scarcity level just goes way up. 1960 mantle. 15,426 of these graded. 69 of them have a signature. 0.4% of these have a signature. 0.4. This 59 mantle right here, 14,576 graded. 44 have a signature. 0.3%. So out of the 4 mantles I just showed you, this one is the most scarce of all 4 of those. I'm not sure why people didn't get the 59 signed much, but they didn't. And then the last one of those I'm going to show is my pride and joy, and it's the 1955 Topps Jackie Robinson signed card. And so this one checks so many boxes for me. Iconic player. I didn't see him play. I didn't get it in person. But iconic player, great story, but he's Jackie Robinson, the dude that Martin Luther King Jr. said, without what he did, I couldn't have done what I did. He did so much for his race, so much for all races, for America in general, in society, and he held this card in his hand and he put his signature on it. So that means a ton. This one has been graded 10,537 times between SGC and PSA, and that is a pop 19 on the signature, putting it at a minuscule 0.18%, not 1.8%, 0.8% of all his graded cards are signed. That, my friends, is rarity. That makes this card. Not only was Jackie Robinson holding this and he signed it, but there are hardly any of these. So to have one in my collection, this was very expensive. I paid a lot of money for this card, but still, to have this in my collection just gives me chill bumps. So I love having this card. So that's it. I'm going to show you that Berk Ross set I just picked up. I'll be right back. All right, here's the Berk Ross collection that I just bought on REA. I've already shown you the Larry Dobby. There's 113 of these graded. There was only 2 signed. Now there's 3, and I feel lucky to be able to land that. Like I was telling you, I didn't know if I'd ever get one. The next one is Hall of Famer Duke Snider. There's 168 of these graded. Oh, and by the way, they got the gray backs. But there's 168 of these graded, and there's pop count of 1. All these pop counts are before I got these, by the way. So a pop count of 1 out of 168. So now it's going to be 2 out of 169. Hall of Famer Ralph Kiner. Nice signature there. Pop count on this was 69 and 1 signed one. So now it'll be 2. Another Hall of Famer, Phil Rizzuto. Check that autograph out. It's beautiful. 78 was the amount that is graded, and only 2 are signed. Now it'll be 3. Now we're getting into some of the lesser known guys. Bobby Brown, 33 graded cards and 0 signed ones. Joe Collins, 47 graded cards, 0 signed ones. Ferris Fane, 76 graded cards, 0 signed ones. Sheldon Jones, 32 graded cards. He has a great signature, by the way. 0 signed ones. This one is very faded, but it's there. Trust me. This was George Kale, 67 graded cards, 3 signed ones. So there's more of these than any of the other ones, actually. It's the highest pop count out of all 16 of these. The next one's Bob Kuzava, and he has 52 graded cards and 0 signed ones. Sal Magley, many of you know who he is, pitched for the Giants. 65 graded cards, 0 signed cards of Sal Magley. The next one's Tom Morgan, 48 graded cards, 0 signed ones, another 0 pop count. Gil McDougall, infielder for the Yankees. Good signature there. 76 graded cards, 0 signed ones. Don Mueller, 50 graded cards, 0 signed ones. You seeing a pattern here? Wes Westrom, 43 graded cards, 0 signed ones. And last but not least, Gene Wooding, 72 graded cards, 1 signed one. So out of all these cards that I picked up in this lot, which basically I picked them up for that card right there. I wanted that one. These cards are great, especially the Hall of Famers. I love having those. But these cards are great, but I needed that one. And so still picking all these up, the pop count, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 10. Out of all 16 of these cards, a pop count of 10 signed cards before I got them. Now we're adding 16 more. So now that's 26 signed cards. So pretty crazy, the kind of stuff that can just show up. So thank y'all so much. I'll be right back. All right. Hope you enjoyed that. Talked a little bit about pop counts. I showed you some of my childhood cards I've never really shown on my channel before. Showed you some rare cards. Again, you know, when you get into how many mantles are out there that are graded, and then you really see the pop count, even though there's quite a few of those that he signed. He falls in that category of, oh, he signed a lot. Yeah, he did sign a lot. But the pop count percentage of his signature on a card is very, very minuscule when you really think about it. I don't know if you were surprised by those numbers, but it is surprising. And, you know, one of the reasons it is because so many of his cards are graded. I think his are graded at a higher level than just a standard guy or I hate to say this, but a lower tier Hall of Famer. So anyway, and then there's guys like Larry Dobby. Larry didn't sign a lot. He wouldn't sign by mail. He didn't do the card circuit and all that kind of stuff. So his pop count stayed pretty low too, like we talked about. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to do another Odd Couple episode. I've had people asking me when we're going to do another one. So Mike and I are going to do one, and it's going to be, we've already got the subject. You'll have to wait and see what it is, but I know you'll enjoy it. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.